Hello and welcome. My name is Jess, and this is Knit.Purl.Repeat. It's a channel mostly about knitting, but also some spinning, crochet, other fiber things sprinkled in, and a little bit of travel occasionally. So if that's something that interests you, then stick around for a little chat. This is episode 5. So welcome. I am coming to you from Tampa, Florida, and it is quite warm yet, 30 degrees Celsius, upper 80s Fahrenheit. Although the humidity lowered the last couple of days, it's still very warm. How's the weather where you are? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you find something interesting, maybe inspirational in the items I'm going to chat with you about today. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. You will find in the description box not only links to the items I talk about today, the makers, the patterns, but also timestamps for the different sections that I will run through today. That way you can just click on the time, the number, and go to the part of the video that interests you the most, or come back to if you need to hear something again, if you just love listening to my voice. If you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. I have a little surprise at the end that I'd like to talk to everybody about. Since the channel is growing, that's really exciting. Thank you so much for joining me and encouraging my craft insanity by being here and be able to talk to you all about it. So stick around to the end if you're interested in hearing about a little gift that may be coming your way. So where can you find me? I am on, sorry, shouting, and my washing machine is going in the background, so I apologize. Yeah, this is how we're going again. This is Friday, but anyway, we're winging it again. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Jess's Makes. I will put that in the description box as well as hopefully appear on the screen. So you can get more details about these items and what's going on in those areas that I use more often. But if Ravelry is not accessible to you, I am going to do my best to try to include some particulars about the patterns that I will discuss and the needles and yarns and sizes that I am using in them. I am going to spend my time now talking about some finished objects. I actually have 2 objects that are recently fresh off the needles. Okay, technically 3 that are fresh off the needles, but 2 that are completely finished. I'm also going to show you a finished object. I actually, I'm redoing this video, no surprise, and I got too warm in the object I was wearing. So I will hold it up for you, and maybe if I can get it together during editing, you will see a little video of me modeling and showing you some close-ups of this pattern. Yeah. So let's get on with that. So what I am wearing, or was wearing, and is where I am wearing in this video is this tee. It's called the Pothos Tee, and it's a pattern by Beth McDonald Stone. Beth is a knitwear designer located in Bermuda, and she does have a YouTube channel here as well, which is where I got inspired to make this pattern of hers. So let me start off with a little bit about the pattern, and then I'll talk about mine. Maybe I won't be able to have to show it to you, but maybe I'll put some pictures up just so you can see how the fit is actually on my body, instead of just write a picture, so you have a better idea of what it might look like. But so I'm going to try not to talk of anything important when I'm covering my face in case somebody is a lip reader. There's the back. I will talk about the side panels in a moment. So this is a DK weight pattern worked from the top down. So you cast on for the rib neck, and then you do some short rows a little bit, And then you start this nice lace weight, lace patterning in the raglans and make your sleeves. Let me look at, oh, I didn't bring this up again. So much for having done this over. I still forgot to bring up the pattern information. Okay, so let me tell you about Beth's pattern. She actually published this in May of 2020, but on a video this year, in maybe the springish here in the Northern Hemisphere, Beth was showing it on her YouTube channel, and I just fell in love with it. So much so that I paused the video, went online, and purchased it. Because also bubbling in the back of my mind was a long, deep stash yarn that has been a struggle for me to find a pattern for. That I thought just might work. This might be the pattern to finally use this yarn. So I'll come back to that in a minute. Spoiler alert, it is. That's what I was holding up for you. But anyway, here's what the pattern is. So it's DK weight. Beth used Rowan Denim Revive, also Taki Yarns Coronado as two of her samples. It's DK weight, stitch gauge, 21 stitches and 30 rows and 4 inches. And worked on 3.5 millimeter needles, which are US 4 size. It comes in 6 sizes, ranging in finished bust circumference of 36 inches or 91.5 centimeters up to 66 inches, 168 centimeters size. I worked the size 2, back to that, and I used the recommended needles and I got gauge, which is actually what I did while I was watching the rest of her video. I went and grabbed this yarn and did a swatch. And it was magic. It was just the right time for this yarn. So what I used here, this is Fildar Rustique. Fildar Fil Rustique avec Lin. So it is a discontinued yarn. It is a deep stash yarn. It is a combination of cotton, linen, and viscose, I believe. Let me check. It's 65% cotton, 25% rayon, and 10% linen. It arrived in a very light, well, it was a blue. It was almost robin's egg blue. The color's the denim, but when I got it, I wouldn't have called that denim. I've never owned any denim in that color, faded or not. It was not, but it just wasn't my color. And I think that's why I tried to knit with it over the years in 3 different projects. And I would just give up on them. And part of it could have been the yarn, working with it. But I think overall, in the back of my mind, I knew I wasn't going to wear this. It's just not my color. I didn't enjoy it. But it wasn't until this year that I pulled it out of stash. So some of it has been washed numerous times. So it got softer, but I thought, over dye it. So I've been doing some solar dyeing and a little bit of dyeing here and there. I am not an indie dyer for any other thing, just out of curiosity. I wanted to try it, but I thought, why don't I just try to over dye it? What can go wrong? If I just dunk it in black, it's going to at least darken the tone. So let's go for that. So I got some powdered dye that is for plant-based fibers, and that's what I did. I dyed it with over-dyed it with a black yarn and black powder, and it came out this color, which I think is actually pretty close to reality, at least from what I'm seeing on my screen. So it went from this really kind of duck egg pastel-y blue to this, which is much more my color, this sort of moody dark blue grayish color. And since it's been washed again, it got soft. I have recently washed it. I did throw it in the gentle cycle in my washing machine, and then I just laid it out flat to dry. So I haven't blocked it since the first time blocking it, and it fits really nicely. It's worked top down. When you get to binding off for the sleeves, separating for the sleeves, you do bind off the sleeves with this little rolled I-cord edge. So you are completely done with the sleeves at that point. This pattern is very addictive. I think that's you can see it's coming out nicely there. This is the Pothos vine pattern here, and it's just, I couldn't stop making it. I couldn't stop working it. It was so fun. when you get to sleeve separation and you pick up a stitch and finish that, you can either stop working that pattern and just work stockinette all the way around. I think the option is to keep some purl stitches on the side for a faux seam. I think so. So that you still get the seam down the side, this fake seam. But I decided to continue. So that was an option. I wanted to continue because it's just, I love it. It's just beautiful. It's a very easy lace pattern. Even working with this yarn occasionally, try not to get splitty with some of the lace work, because I did use some wood tipped needles, but they're quite pointy, I guess. But it works really well. I really love it. So it is DK weights, and it's because it's plant-based, it is quite kind of heavy. So I do feel it in this weather, but it's not wool. So it's still kind of cozy for that. I wouldn't wear it outside right now because it's still too warm, but it's comfortable indoors. I just got too warm running around, so I've taken it off. But again, the Pothos Tee by Beth McDonald Stone. I made no modifications to the pattern. It hits me just at my kind of high hip area, and as I said, I'll put some pictures up here so at least you see how it fits on me. But they are also on my Ravelry page, so you can go look there if that's accessible to you. So that's a finished object, but not a recent one. It's somewhat recent. I finished it this summer. Checking my notes. Okay, so the next one I will talk about is a finished object that I mentioned before, and that is the Bolton Pass hat, free pattern by Espace Tricot. This is the finished hat. So this is worked bottom up. It comes in three sizes, all adult, small, medium, and large, made with a number 4 or worsted Aran weight yarn. I used Maker Cozy Wool in the color Hibiscus. This is 100% superwash wool that I bought when I was on holiday from a general craft store in a mall in Brisbane, Australia. So this took me a long time to make just because it was travel knitting, and I kept making mistakes and just ripped it out. Then I tried, when I showed you last time, I had been working with needles that turned out to really hurt my right hand. I was working really hard because they weren't quite flexible. Anyway, it was bad. And so I soon realized that might be the problem and put them down, and then my hand felt much better. So once I had a spare pair of good needles, good for my hand needles, I finished it. So it's really nice. You cast on with US 6, which are 4mm needles to knit the bottom. The words aren't wording today. So half twisted rib stitches, ribbing at the bottom, so you're only working in the back loop and twisting the knit stitches. When you're done working the band, then you switch to US 7 or 4.5mm needles, and you start working a stockinette until the number of stitches it tells you to then continue the half twisted rib pattern, stop it, and go back to knitting stockinette. So you do that for 2 rounds, and then it becomes stair step. Then you move into stitches with the knits and work fewer and fewer of these of this half twisted rib stitch until you get to the peak. And then from there you can continue knitting if you want it really slouchy, or you can start the decreases. The decreases in this pattern are knit 3 together and every other round, every so many stitches, and you get this really distinct top to the hat, which almost makes these 4 points on them. So it comes out really distinct, at least in this one. I guess I can try it on for you. You might want to look away. This may not be pretty. Let's try it on. All right, so it is a very slouchy hat. There. So if you want to do a brim, I guess you could fold it up, but it's not very long back here, so it might look a bit weird. But if you are someone, or you're knitting it for someone who likes to have more fitted beanies with a folded brim, obviously that's not the one for them. And that is really who I knit hats for, other than myself. But, sorry about, oh gosh, okay. But since I don't really need a lot of hats, this is probably going to be the only one. But it's really fun, it's really easy. I use stitch markers so that I didn't have to keep counting. and I just knew to move 2 ahead and 2 behind to work really fast. Sorry, it's my washing machine. The spin cycle should stop soon. So that's the bolt and hat pass. I didn't do any modifications on that pattern. So next on my list are the Starflight socks. I finished my pair of socks. Maybe that'll be my thumbnail because I forget to do this and then I have to grab random weird pictures. So I'll hold this one up first so you can see the pattern. So these are knit cuff down. They come in 4 sizes, foot circumference sizes, and you can make a calf or ankle length. So I made size 3 and the calf length. I modified only the top, which is into a 2x2 ribbed cuff. The pattern calls for a 1x1 rib, but I prefer 2x2 if it looks nice with the rest of the sock. You knit it with a traditional heel flap. So it's a stitch slipped heel, heel turn, and gusset. And during the gusset, you're only working stockinette on the sole, and you knit this, see how you get the light, there we go. We knit this quilted texture on the instep, only stopping a ways before you get to your toe to work some more of these flying geese motif. So I knit the size 3 primarily because I wanted to have enough ease in the colorwork section to be able to fit this over my foot and still use the 2.25 needles size, which is what's recommended for the gauge in the pattern, and still knit these magic loop. That's how I prefer to knit my socks. Now, oftentimes, if I'm working a colorwork cuff to a sock or leg, I will use small circulars, but they're really hard on my hands. And so this time I decided to just knit a bigger size, spread them out, and hopefully not get any ladders on the sides, so really try to avoid that. I did stop after the first few rows of color work to try it on to make sure I could get it up over my foot, because of course there have been those times where I've just been happily knitting away and I forget to check and then I can't get the sock on. So if I stop earlier and check, then you don't have so much to rip back if you need to adjust your tension. So I don't think I got any noticeable ladders on the sides. So the sides are here between these vertical bars on both sides. I think they turn out pretty well. Maybe a slight hole there I'll have to fix. Anyway, we're not going to point that out again. The only difference I would make, because these are a larger size for me than I really needed, other than to make sure I could get it over this part of my foot with the color work, is I would probably knit I'm going to make these again in the opposite colors for the main color and the contrast color. I will knit the stitch stitch heel a little shorter. I don't need it this tall. And then also decrease some of the stitches out of the foot, so that I'm probably by 4 stitches just to bring it down a little bit, and that way I can still keep it in pattern for this quilted texture pattern. I just have to watch when I get to the end that I have the stitch count that will work for the chart to make these flying geese at the bottom. So as mentioned, they're only chart, there's no written instructions, but if it's your first time reading from charts or doing color work, this would be a great pattern because they're very easy to follow. Just highlight the parts of the chart that are repeated for your size. So the chart is repeated twice because you're working the front of the sock and then the back of the sock. That's it. So, and it's only over this section, and then the rest of this is just the little engaging texture that with purl stitches that only happens every 4 rows to the end, and then the ones at the end, and that's it. So really nice, simple pattern. I did use the Farmer's Daughter Fibers Bear Paw sock, which is what was used in the original pattern, and I used the original pattern colors, which I will link here. Now, I didn't weigh the balls before I started knitting. They're supposed to be 100 grams. They may have been weighed more, whether that meant more yardage or just more weight because of differences in the dyes, making some of them heavier than the others. I'm not sure. Since it wasn't a test knit, it's just a pair of socks. For me, I didn't weigh them. But then I decided to weigh them afterwards to say, oh, how much did that weigh? Well, I had 40 grams left of this main color, but I had 100 grams left of the contrast color. Obviously that's not possible because I've used some. I must have used at least a few grams. I don't know, 3 to 5 grams for that. I guess what I could do is weigh the whole sock, subtract out this, and whatever's left over is what I use for this part, but I'm not really that interested. I have a lot left. In fact, here we are. This is how much I have left of the contrast color, which is almost the full skein. And here's the main color. So I'm going to make this as my main color and this as my contrast to knit another pair. And I also do them calf length because I really like that length. They're not too high, but they're not the short ankle, not ankle socks. Their ankle socks means it comes up over the ankle. They're not the low riders. It comes like 2 or right above your ankle versus right up to where your larger calf muscle begins. So I was knitting these as an informal knit along on Instagram. I checked a few weeks ago. I'm the only one who used the hashtag, which is fine. It's my own sock party. But if you ever do make these, feel free to add the hashtag so I can see them too. Anyway, Starflight socks. Off the needles. And I'm not going to cast on the next pair right away, which could mean that they may not come for a long time, but I have another pair of socks that have been waiting, only because when I pick them up and put them down, I have a hard time with the particular stitch pattern on them, figuring out which row I'm on. It's a 4-row repeat, but because there are slip stitches in there, for some reason, I can't keep track. I can't. So I'm going to try to work that out. I want to finish them. I can show them to you, I guess, as instead of a finished object, we can start works in progress. This isn't really a work in progress because it's a sock, but they do count as finished objects. That's how I work. That's how I work here. So this is a pattern by Summer Lee, and from the top of my head, I've forgotten what they're called, but I really like this pattern. This texture, oh, there you go. You can see this sort of waffle texture. They're meant to be slouchy, oversized socks. And even though I'm knitting them on 2.75 millimeter needles, yeah, look at that, needles with a plastic cable, they're fit. They're still quite fitted. So Summer mentioned that because of this pattern, right, going up a size and your tension, I didn't want them falling down, but I don't know. They're still a bit fitted, but they're not tight. I don't know. But see if I can put it on my hand so you can kind of see that texture a bit better there. But I don't know what the problem is. So this is the first sock. And you can see how far I am. I just have to keep going. But I guess last time I put a stitch marker. I'll have to look at my notes. Because what is this marking? The end, the beginning, the first row of the 4-stitch repeat, or the 0 mark from the last one. So I have to check my notes. But I want to get back to these and make the second sock. And they're currently housed in a bag that was made and gifted to me by Liz of Arrow Acres Farm. She dyed this using, what did you use, Liz? Ice dye method? Oh, look at it. With this cute little lining with the bees. So cute. I love it. Thanks, Liz. So that's housed in there. Oh, so the other thing that is off my needles has actually been restarted. That's the Farrig cardigan. So I talked about that last time, so I don't want to spend time talking in great detail about it until I actually finish it, which is probably what I said last time. But something was wrong with not paying attention to things. I blame it on the yarn fumes at the festival. So this was yarn that I purchased at Rhinebeck, unintentional purchase, and to make a pattern that was on display. I bought the yarn that was suggested to make it, not asking, questioning anything about sizes. They just said, oh, you need 3 balls. If you're doing the short sleeved, you'll need 2 more if you want to make long sleeve. Okay, great. Well, of course, I should have just at least bought 1 more, right? I didn't. I just thought, oh, that's great. That's all I need. Well, I'm making it. I'm making size 2 so that I had a little bit more ease for this cardigan. It's cable and it's lace. So the lace will open up, but the cable, of course, uses up a little. So I think it kind of balances out. I wanted a little bit of ease in case I wanted to wear it closed. I normally don't close my cardigans, maybe a couple buttons up here, but I generally leave them open. So that was my plan. But I finished the first ball of yarn and realized that there was no way I was going to have enough yarn to finish that entire cardigan. And somewhere up here should be some footage or a still of how far I got. So I needed to make that same height again, repeating the lace pattern. So the entire height, including the hem, 1.5 more times. No, one time and then a few more rounds before splitting and then working the front, the back. But then there's the arms, cuffs, and the button band and collar. That wasn't going to happen if that took one whole ball. Now I am using larger needles as well because my gauge was a little tight. So I had options, right? I could either go online and order another ball of the yarn from the farm. Now I love supporting small business and I have no problem with that, except that I won't go online and buy just one ball of yarn and pay for shipping. We're going to buy some more things, right? They're going to fall in the cart. I do have other patterns for future knitting that could use some really nice farm yarn merino. And they have things that I'm interested in, but I don't really need it right now and to spend the money right now. So my other option, of course, was to rip it out and go back and make size 1, which only needs 3 balls of yarn. Size 1 is for a finished bust circumference of 36 inches. That is my bust circumference. So that means I would have 0 ease if I stick with the gauge for the pattern. Now that's with it closed and buttoned, so it would be fitted. I could block it a bit more, but that's going to pull it up and it's already a bit cropped. I have to be concerned about the arms, but that's the option I've gone with. So again, it's in this black, right? You can see it, right? Because I'm wearing black again. I'm sure breaking rules of film and photographing yourself, but it's what I wear. Hopefully I'm not a floating head. At least you can see my neck. Anywho, here it is. So, I already got the hem in there, and I've just started the first row of the chart. Again, this is one that is charted only. There are no written instructions for the lace pattern, but it's extremely simple lace pattern with cables in between. So I just mark off every time there's a repeat with some stitch markers so I can count or keep track, or if I've made a mistake, right, it's much easier to go back instead of having to count all the way from the beginning again. Because I find if I'm going to make a mistake, especially with lace, it usually has something to do with a yarn over. Either I forgot to put in a yarn over or I've accidentally dropped it on the next round, the next row. So this is worked flat from the bottom up. So anyway, it's back on the needles. It's okay. We're off and running again. It'll get done at some point. There's no rush. It's still warm out right now. Okay, other works in progress. The Mabel sweater. Oh, I don't have anything to show for the Mabel sweater. I do have a little story, if you'll indulge me. It was a little story of panic and sadness momentarily and despair, but it has a happy ending. So on Thursday, yesterday, it was Thursday, November 14th, 2024, I decided to bring my Mabel sweater with me to work because I only teach one class in the morning and then the rest of my day is spent in my office for office hours and online work until I go and get my kids from high school. So instead of just sitting there at a desk for hours on end, I like to stand, move around, and take a break and knit. So that was my plan. So when I got to lunchtime and ready to take a break, I turned for my bag and I couldn't find it anywhere in my office. I was very bewildered for some time, right? It takes a bit to realize, like, wait, where is it? I mean, my office isn't that huge. Like, where is this thing? Trying to remember, well, where did I go? And I remembered parking and carrying it across the street, down the block to my office building, and thinking, I didn't go anywhere else. Why isn't it here? And then it dawned on me, of course, you're thinking, who would steal it? No one's going to have stolen it. I thought, I probably dropped it. Somehow it must have fallen out of my arm and I didn't realize, and I dropped it. We're in an urban area where my campus is. I figured if I dropped it, that thing is gone, right? Somebody finds a bag sitting on the ground, unless it's kind of dodgy and you think, oh, I don't want to pick up a bag, it's gone, right? But it's this bag. So this is what it, no, so this is the happy ending. So I have it. Here's the bag. So this is a bag by Knit.Purl by Mackie. Does bags by Mackie. It was a prize that I won from the 24-hour knit-a-thon last year. The one hosted by Pia Trans. And I thought, no, this will be gone, right? And if somebody's taken it, not only did I lose, I started thinking, oh, I've lost this bag. You know, it's not just one of my bags. It was a prize bag, and it's this bag. This nice little suede texture. And then, my sweater's gone. And all the yarn. And my Chalgo needles, you know. So I was just like despair and thinking, no, it has to be somewhere. So I thought, I just have to go and look. I'll walk back towards my car. The day wasn't over, but I'm like, I'm leaving early. I need to go find this bag. God, there's no way. There's no way. So I went outside, turned the corner of the building, and there next to our building, there's a sidewalk, and then we're raised above the street, a sidewalk, and then some landscaping. And it was sitting right there in the landscaping next to the sidewalk in the sun. And it had been sitting there for 5.5 hours. And it was still there. I could not believe it. I'm so happy. So nothing really to show you though. I have knit on it, but nothing really interesting. I'm just still going around and around on the body. Now on ball 3. So a happy ending after all, but gosh, I would not probably have been here today recording because I would have been really depressed and sad from having lost it. Okay, anyway, I found it. That's all that matters, right? So let me show you something that I haven't shown you before, but I plan to work on for the 24-hour knit-a-thon happening this weekend. So in my time zone here in Florida, it starts tomorrow, Saturday, November 16th at 9 a.m. and ends 9 a.m. on Sunday. Then it starts 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, Central European time, and then for 24 hours. So I'm going to use that time to work on the Mabel sweater, right? Kind of work away at my whips for me in between household chores and kids and all the things, lifing, getting in the way of my spending time with people across the world, just knitting and enjoying episodes on YouTube together, music, all kinds of things. So in my bag from 3 by the Sea Designs, this one here, that I take, not surprisingly, this always comes with me on our flights to London when we go during the summers to visit my in-laws over there and our friends, because, you have to. And it has a nice little, look at that little progress keeper. Yeah. So this is what comes with me on the plane. In here, I'm almost embarrassed to say, but, it is how it is. There's so many things you want to work on. Is a lingering whip that I started September of 2023, and I'm trying to find my page here in Ravelry so I can tell you about it. This is the Nadine cowl. It is a pattern by Isabella Kramer, and I started it for her Take Your Pick Cowl 2023. It's a cowl. It shouldn't take me over a year to make it, but I think I got bored at the time. I don't know what it was. Other projects, who knows? Who knows? It was a year ago. I did pick it up and start again, and I was like, I got other things I want to work on. So I think it was repetitive. It got maybe too repetitive for me at the moment. And now it's like I need repetitive because I have too many things that require too much attention for me to work on with others or other distractions. I just can't. So here it is so far. It is worked. Let me look at the original pattern to tell you about it. I'll put a picture up here for you. Sorry for all the busy background as well. So hopefully you can see the picture, but I'll link it below. It is, she published this pattern in April of 2019. It is a fingering weight yarn pattern, 22 stitches, 32 rows, and 4 inches on US 5 or 3.75 millimeter needles. In fact, these are probably not the right needles They look too small. I think these are needles holding it because I've taken the needles for something else. Because these are fixed circular needles that look like they're sock needles. So I'll have to remember to, hopefully, I remember to change the needles out before I resume working on it. Maybe when I'm editing this will be a reminder to change the needles. Don't just dive in again, change the needles. Anyway, it's one size. It uses between 634 to 674 yards. So you need 2 balls of yarn, this main color, and then your contrasting color. And so I am using, as the main color, this one from Sweet Sparrow Yarns. This is her Sandpiper base, and the color Turian. So it's blue with some speckles, and it's tonal. And as the contrast color, I'm using something that's a bit more sport weight. This is the Queensland Collection Rainbow Beach in the color 133 Aurora Australis. So this comes as 328 yards, roughly is what I said I had. So I'm holding this as my color changing contrast color. So you knit these stockinette rows, offset the edges here with garter ridges, although sometimes I didn't. I have found that I just started knitting again or not doing it right because it is worked flat, so I must have just automatically purled instead of knitting to make the garter. And then you work these little baubles, which are nice, have a nice, see if I can just hold it sideways. You see the dimensions to it back there. You drop them, pick up, knit with these little stitches. I know they're upside down here to create these little baubles. So, I mean, it's fun. You have to pay a little attention because it does increase on one edge. And you do have a bunch of yarn ends to work in later, but it's not that big a deal. I don't know where I am. I do know that I've marked it on the pattern. I do have it marked on the pattern, so hopefully I'll remember to do that. So I'm looking forward to having this done, but I just haven't finished it yet. So I'd like to work on that this weekend once I change the needles. Future self. You might be hearing about that next time. So that's that work in progress. So something different for you, so I can actually show you something that, since I haven't made progress on anything else. So I tried to pull up my notes. Other work in progress that I think I'm going to cast on. I know, I just said I want to spend the day working down the whips. But, there's new things to be done too. So we'll see what my concentration's like. If I'm getting too fed up, too interrupted, and I need a simpler project, then I'm going to cast on Wilfrida. So I did talk about Wilfrida before. When the yarn arrived, so I ordered this yarn, the Lana Gato, in there. Let's see, it's very shiny in the light. There you go. I think that shows up. This is their silk mohair. This is a minty color. The color is 30793. It was called Tiffany on the Etsy website where I purchased it. Normally, color's maybe about right. Normally, this isn't really a color I would wear, like as a whole sweater and stuff. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I just know I wouldn't normally wear it. But I didn't want whatever I held with this yarn. So this is the Achilles base from Needles at the Ready, hand dyed in the Mossy Cobblestone colorway. I want you to be able to see the speckles, but I don't want the color to blow out. So I wanted that to show up. So when it arrived, right, it's exciting. I'm gonna dive in, let's make it, let's cast on now. I was doing other projects and I told myself, okay, if you finish some of these other projects, you can swatch. Oh, sorry, now I got fluff. So I did. I finished my projects and I swatched. So you may have seen this. I posted on Instagram, my little lovely swatch. So it's very nice, light and airy. You can still see the speckles in there, which is what I wanted. I still wanted that to show up. So this comes out as a very loose gauge because you work it on large needles. I think they're US 10, 6mm. So I did use the pattern needles to see what the gauge would be. And it is quite open and airy, but that's perfect for me, especially here. And I need that airflow. So it's similar to I would say it's a little bit lighter than my Lento sweater that I knit with a fingering weight and a mohair held together. But that's because my fingering weight was a bit more plump. This is a light fingering weight, so I think it's 463 yards per gram, so much lighter. So it's much more open. I could have used real alpaca, which I actually prefer to mohair because some mohairs are still prickly. Um, the ones I'm willing to spend the money on, that is. I know there are other nice ones out there, but this feels pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't wear it today because it's warm and it's prickly, but I'm ready to cast that on. Now I haven't decided, I'll get to that later, whether I do kind of 3/4 length sleeves or longer. The pattern has you work almost like a balloon sleeve down to the wrist before you do some rapid decreases. But I don't tend to like things here. I will just push them up. So they either have to be here or they have to be done here. Otherwise I'm constantly pushing my sleeves up. So it's gonna, why put it there? So that's a plan coming. So I love that swatch. I'm very happy with it. And the best part is those needle tips from ChowGoo, the metal, I use the red lace cables, need the large cable, large size. So they don't fit on the other cables that I use for the US 4s, 3s, right, the smaller millimeters. So that means I had a cable free, I have needle tips free. So I can't deny it, right? Might as well cast it on and get that started. All right, I had some technical difficulties. Let's see if this will work this time or if my head's going to explode. Yeah, I got hot. This is it. Right. A couple of items I wanted to mention. Acquisitions. So I have ordered yarn from Hobie to make the snowflake vest, which I will show here. So I'm just waiting on that to arrive, which is why I'm going to cast on Wilfrida since I have that yarn. Also, I acquired these lovelies as a gift, as a winner from the Lamb and Kid on Instagram. They had a thing going on where they're celebrating, and so I won these lovelies. I don't think I paid attention to what the yarns actually were. They just said, pick your color combo, and I picked this, and then I won, and so I got it. If you have any idea of projects other than hats that these would work well in, so this is the color Castaway. It's dyed in the wool, 200 yards, sport weight. Let me know. I'm thinking, of course, there's always the color work thing, but 200 yards, what project would only use that much for color work? If you have any ideas, drop that in the comment box, please. I would love it. And definitely let me know what you're working on. I'd love to hear that too. The other thing I would like to know, if you're going to be interested in receiving a gift, this is not my 100 subscriber gift away because why wait? I'm close, but if there is 100, when I do get to 100, there may be a second one. So keep an eye out for that. But I want to gift to someone one of these skeins from a local dyer to me. I mean, I can do both, but I'm just a bit concerned right now about shipping. So let's do both. Why not? I've got both. 3 by the Sea Designs is local to me as a dyer, and I'm going to include some stitch markers that are not from them, but they're just included. These are their bases. I will post it below, but they're both fingering weight yarns. This one is a lighter fingering weight sock set with a 20-gram mini. There we go. The colors are probably a bit more realistic there. Look at those colors. This was a surprise, a mystery, so I didn't know what they were going to look like. I love it, but I'd like to gift something away, and I wanted to pick something local to me, so that's what I've chosen. This is superwash, as is this one. This has stellina in it, silver stellina, which I think you can see sparkling there. This is a bit more plump fingering nylon stellina. So if you would like to be gifted one of these, in the comment box, let me know what country you're watching this video from. I'm curious to know where people are from. So yeah, do that. I already know some of it, but let's just use that as the topic for the random comment picker. So let me know what country you're watching from if you're interested in receiving one of these. And I will not contact you individually to tell you you've won, right? That is spam, that is a scam, don't fall for it. I will announce the random winners next time I record. Yeah. I need to go get my kids from high school. So hope you have a great weekend, or whenever you're watching this, great rest of your week, that you find time to do something that brings you joy. And if you're joining in on the 24-hour knit along, I'll see you in the chats on one of the YouTube channels sometime over the weekend. Until then, take care. Bye.